Hello, Black Healing Matters family. This is Danielle here at the Black Healing Matters podcast, where we offer you ideas to hopefully move you one step closer to your healing. And I'm really excited today because, I decided on this Wednesday, and you know what Wednesday is, this Welcome Wellness Wednesday. That's right. Every Wednesday here on the Black Healing Matters podcast is Welcome Wellness Wednesday, where we really explore and grapple with ideas to hopefully usher in more wellness into our moments, to fill our moments with health, with prosperity, with wellness, ultimate wellness. And so this is a series that we have been doing for several weeks now, and we're now coming down to one of the final pillars of wellness. And so today, this pillar of wellness that we're going to discuss is spiritual wellness. And, spirituality in general, if you Google the word spirituality, you end up with a lot of conversation about religion oftentimes. And so today, instead of me talking to you about about religion and about spirituality, I thought it'd be best if I got somebody a lot more qualified to talk about this. So I'm going to be playing part of an interview done on the Michael Imhotep show on the Empowerment Network. And this interviewee is Professor James Smalls, who is a very well-known professor. And then in this interview, he's talking about African spirituality. This is truly fascinating stuff, and I hope that you get as much from this as I did. Again, this is not my interview. This is Michael Imhotep of the Michael Imhotep Show on the African History Network, Empowerment Radio Network as well. So, stay tuned and enjoy. I love you, stay blessed, and as always, Black Healing Matters.
Welcome back to the Michael Imhotep Show on the Empowerment Radio Network, where knowledge is power. All right, we want to welcome everybody to the second hour of tonight's show. We have to give a shout out to some of our affiliate radio stations that broadcast the Michael Imhotep Show. WCBQ 1340 AM in Oxford, North, WHNC 890 AM in Henderson, North Carolina, WBOK 1230 AM in New Orleans, Louisiana, WOLB 1010 AM in Baltimore, Maryland. You can also listen to the show by downloading the TuneIn Radio app to your Android phone, your iPhone, your BlackBerry, your tablet, and search for Empowerment Radio Network, or go to TuneIn.com and search for Empowerment Radio Network. All right, on the line we have Professor James Small. You've heard him on the Michael Imhotep Show before. You may have seen him in a documentary. Okay, we have him calling back in. Okay, you may have seen him in the documentary Hidden Colors 2, the Triumph of Melanin. You may have heard him on the before on the Michael Imhotep Show. He has taught for a number of years at the college level. He's taught courses dealing with Pan-African studies, Pan-Africanism. He's taught for over 15 years at the City University of New York, including 13 years at the City College of New York's Black Studies Department, 13 of those years also serving as an administrator, and 2 years at New York City Technical College. Now, Professor Small has also taught courses on Pan-Africanism, Malcolm X, and on comparative religions, which included several African spiritual systems titled African Religion and Survival, and 2 years at New York City Technical College teaching the course African Folklore and Religion. Okay. All right. And okay, I know we're trying to get him back on the line. Okay. So we'll have him on in a few minutes. Okay. All right. They're trying to get him back on the line. Okay, good. Now, he's also taught Bora and in Africa. He's also taught crime in urban community and urban crisis and issues. Now, Professor James Small has been a member of the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, better known as ASCAC, Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, for 14 years. He has served as president of ASCAC Eastern Region for 2 years, where he worked and studied with Dr. John Henrik Clark, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Asa Hilliard, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Amos Wilson, and Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, just to name a few. And I've interviewed Dr. Jeffries is one of my teachers. Dr. John Henrik Clark was a teacher to Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, Booker T. Coleman, who we had on last night. Professor Kaba Kamene is one of my teachers. Also, Professor James Small is another one of my teachers as well. I've interviewed Dr. Francis Cress Wilson. So we're waiting on him to call back in. In the meantime, I want to let you know that coming up tomorrow, Friday, February 6th, at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, they are doing a screening of the documentary 500 Years Later. Now, this is part of ASALA, the ASALA Week, Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and they're celebrating Woodson Week, Dr. Carter G. Woodson Week. And the Association for the Study of African American Life and History was the organization that he helped co-found. Now, this screening is taking place 6 p.m. to about 8 p.m. 500 Years Later is a critically acclaimed, multi-award-winning, compelling, and timeless journey filmed on 5 continents. It's infused with the spirit and music of liberation. 500 Years Later chronicles the struggle of a people who have fought and continue to essential human right, self-determination. 500 years later, after the onset of the African Holocaust of enslavement and colonialism, Africans and people of African descent are struggling for basic freedoms. Why is this? Okay. Now, there'll be a questions and answers session afterwards, and I'm on that panel for questions and answers, so definitely come on out. It's a free event. Bring the family. There'll be vendors there also. Be sure to visit the vendor table of the African History Network as well, and come on, bring pen and pad to take notes, ask questions. I'm on the panel along with Malikia Kinney. Malikia Kinney is the co-founder of the Black Food Security Network. He's also the co-founder of Insuroma Institute as well, so it's going to be a good time. And you're going to learn a lot. Friday, February 6th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We just posted this information on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. We're going to put it on our website. It'll be in the email newsletter that goes out tomorrow, okay, Friday. And very quickly, we're going to go to Professor Small in just a second here. But Saturday at the Charles H. Wright Museum, February 7th, 12 noon to 8 p.m., there will be the first annual African World Bazaar. Now, this African World Bazaar is a unique marketplace drawing on influences from African diaspora and beyond, from textile garments to handsmith, jewelry, and handmade organic jams. African World Bazaar is bound to offer something special for everyone. Guests will also enjoy live performances, youth activities, arts and crafts demonstrations, and more. Okay, we're going to post this on our fan page also, The African History Network. This is taking place Saturday, February 7th at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. It's a free event. I'll be there as well. We'll have a vendor table, the African History Network also. So check that out as well. Okay, on the line we have Professor James Small. We want to welcome him to the Hotep Show. How you doing, Professor Small? Hotep.
Hotep, Brother Michael. I'm nursing a cold. You know, I was hanging out.
Yes.
In the Midwest all weekend, from airport to airport, trying to get home.
Yes, I understand.
But everything else is good.
That's good. That's good, brother. Well, look, it's good to have you on. Always good to talk to you. I talked to you yesterday and earlier today. And I talked to Professor Griff Tuesday night. And you and Professor Griff are doing a double lecture coming up Saturday, February 14th in Atlanta. Yep. And you're going to deal with African spirituality. And tonight we wanted to talk about African spirituality, awakening the God within. And because that's some of what you're going to talk about, and we've talked about this before, but it's extremely important to deal with this subject matter. And we're coming up on a break in a minute, but I want introduction. But why is something like this? Well, first of all, let's approach it this way. What is African spirituality? Because usually when we hear about religion, we hear about Christianity, Islam, Judaism, but we don't hear about African spirituality. What is that?
Well, African spirituality is the understanding of nature and humans' relationship to nature and the cosmos, and the African ancestors' interpretation of the principles that govern that relationship. Out of this fundamental understanding evolved Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Okay, and you talk about how Judaism, Christianity, Islam took fragments from the periphery.
Fragments from the periphery of the African spiritual system.
Yes, okay. So when we deal with African spirituality, okay, we're about to go to break. We come back. We're going to talk about when we deal with African spirituality, what are some of the most popular African spiritual systems, and among which people are they practiced? We're going to get into this on the other side of the break. Okay, so just stand by. Welcome back to the Michael Imhotep Show on the Empowerment Radio Network, where knowledge is power. All right, we're speaking with Professor James Small, and we're talking about African spirituality, awakening to God. All right, Professor Small, right before the break, you gave us a good, concise overview of what African spirituality is, or a definition of what African spirituality is. And one of the questions I had right before the break was, what are some of the most popular African spiritual systems, and what are their names, and which people are they practiced by?
Yeah, and in North America, we find a lot of people who are practicing the Yoruba tradition, or the African spiritual system as the Yoruba practice it. There's no such thing as a Yoruba religion, or a Yoruba spiritual system. A religion is a tool of spirituality, so every people will develop the religion to interpret their spirituality to themselves. And so the Yoruba practice is heavily used. The Yoruba people live in West Africa and what is now Nigeria. Also, we practice heavily, you see people practicing the Akan tradition. The Akans are people living, or in Benin, we see them practicing the Voodoo tradition. And Benin is also in West Africa, bordering on Nigeria. We'll also see the Voodoo tradition practiced in Haiti. We'll see it practiced in New Orleans and other parts of southern Mississippi and Louisiana. We'll see the Candomblé tradition practiced in Brazil.
Okay. And pronounce that again, Candomblé? Pronounce that again? Candomblé. Okay, Candomblé, yes.
Candomblé.
Yes.
And then there's Lucomé. That's what they call the tradition, one of the traditions practiced in Cuba. And Santeria is the tradition practiced in Puerto Rico by Africans there. All of them are practicing the very same system, the very same spiritual system, following the very same cosmology and the very same laws of nature and relationship to nature, and how each culture uses religion as a tool to interpret that spirituality to themselves. Right. So if we look at the Yoruba, we'll see people who are very familiar with that one in North America, where they talk about the Orishas. And so the Orishas are the gods, but no, there's no African word calling the Orishas gods. They are forces in nature. And these forces in nature, which Western science calls some of them the laws of nature, these forces in nature, ancient Africans related to them just as we relate to the laws of nature today. How they function, how they affect us, how we affect them, how we impact on them, how they impact on us. And the idea is, how do you keep harmony between you and all of the aspects of nature that you're able to, and how do you keep harmony between you and the cosmology, the cosmos, the things above the earth that affects you every day, and you affect them with your thoughts, with your actions, and your behavior. And we're talking about matter and energy interacting with each other. But you teach this through allegory and through folklore and through metaphor, as well as rituals and ceremonies and celebrations that involving dancing and music. It involves mastering the science of understanding herbology and the natural medicine that goes in the ecology and how to apply that medically to the lives of the people in the community you're living in. And that the Africans saw medicine as being a spiritual thing, not just a scientific thing. And so you didn't separate your science from your spirituality. Your spirituality and your science is what made it, and with your understanding of science that makes up your reality. So I often say spirituality is reality. It's being conscious of the moment you're living in and being guided by the wisdom of our collective ancestors and the divine laws of nature. Right. Now, how this plays out in what we call religion, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
See, I'm a priest of Oya. Mm-hmm. Oya is considered to be an Orisha, which some people call a god, but there is no god called Oya. Orisha is a force of nature. In the Yoruba language, you're referring to something that is a force, a phenomena, a function in nature that has multiple ways of expressing itself. One of the ways the force we call Oya expresses itself, it expresses itself as change and process. So if I want to do a metaphor about Oya, I would have to use something that represents change. So I would describe Oya as the wind, because the wind represents change. It blows away the stale, and it brings in the new. And so the metaphor and the Yoruba culture about Oya, one of the metaphors is how she saves the king, Shango. Shango, who's a king, represents the aspect of royalty in the human character, represents the courage to change yourself to a higher spirit, a better person. But once you get the courage to change yourself, that courage must do what? It must marry change. So Shango, the courage, the awareness of the courage within a human consciousness to want to change itself must marry change in process in that same human being's consciousness to go to the next step. And then now that Shango and Oya is married, the need for change, marrying change, then in the metaphor, the beautiful woman who represents change, called Oya, has to marry the god of war, the god of iron, Ogun. Why? Because Ogun represents transformation. You know, you get iron, you take a rock, and you put it in the fire, and you burn out the impurities, and you come with iron or steel. Well, that's the result of transformation. So the need for change, Shango, marries change in process, Oya, who then in turn becomes polyandrous and marries transformation as a result of the change, which is called Ogun. You understand what I just said?
Yes, yes.
So when you understand how, you remember most people were not literate in the way we are literate today.
Right.
And read language. Very few people in the inner circle did that. But they were literate in terms of the cultural tools that were used to teach fundamental ideas, principles, and concepts. And that's what metaphor and allegory and folklore were used to do. And that's where dance and drama and music comes in to help teach these concepts. So everyone in the society had an equal understanding of the fundamental laws of science, of the laws of nature, of an understanding the cosmos, astrology, and astrology's knowledge and relationship to everything we did here on Earth. When you put all of that together, which should be called African sacred science, then you're talking about African spirituality or religiosity.
Hey, BHM, this is Miss Yvonne, Reality Speaks, right back at you. I hope that you don't mind me abbreviating your initials or your name, your title, by giving initials. I'm sorry. But again, like I was saying, I appreciate all that you're doing. I'm loving your content. Today is Wednesday. I know that you have something for today, so I will be listening out for that. But I do like everything so far, and I just applaud you, I applaud, your message and what you're doing, yes. And again, thank you for welcoming everyone, making everyone feel, you know what I mean, welcome, basically. But anyway, it all starts with self-love. You have to love yourself first in order to heal, in order to have unity, in order to grow. So with that being said, I love it. Girlfriend, I would like to shout you out in my book, if that's okay. Call me in and let me know, one way or the other. But yeah, so far, doing a very good job, and I applaud you very much. God bless.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.